Next witness is Mr. Jason Devitt. He is the founder and CEO of Skydeck and the founder and former CEO of Vindigo. Both Skydeck and Vindigo develop software applications for use on mobile devices. Welcome, Mr. Devitt.
Thank you for the opportunity to come and testify before you today. I'm a small business owner. I don't like regulators. No offense. I'm here today because I don't have a choice with respect to wireless.
Yeah, you wouldn't exist without us.
Precisely.
So
that is precisely the point. In the context of wireless spectrum, I do not have a choice. We do not have a choice between no regulations and regulations. We have a choice between badly written regulations and regulations that work. And I'm put on a suit today for the first time in 18 months and flew here from Silicon Valley to tell you that we have a regulatory system that doesn't work, and the only way that you are going to be able to fix it is to implement some form of open access. Thomas Carter was not a judge who broke apart a monopoly by fiat. Thomas Carter was an entrepreneur who wanted to bring an interesting product to market and was furious, mad as hell, to discover that he required permission to innovate. I'm an entrepreneur, and I'm mad as hell that I require permission to innovate in the wireless market. I don't have to go to the companies, the great companies that build our public highways, and ask them for their views on what kind of cars that I can put on those roads. I don't have to ask Con Ed for permission when I want to put a refrigerator on the electricity network. I don't have to ask Verizon, thanks be to Thomas Carter, for permission to attach a computer to their network or to launch a website. But for some reason I've never been able to understand, I have to ask permission of Verizon Wireless to attach a computer, or the computers that they now call phones, to their wireless network, and I have to ask their permission to run applications and services on those phones. Worse, I have to ask the permission of my competitors because they're competing with me to provide services to consumers. There are three ways that you can fix this problem. The first is you can go on selling spectrum indefinitely, but unfortunately it's a scarce national resource and we're going to run out of it. I would be happy to purchase spectrum and launch a national network, and so would my 14 colleagues in the Wireless Founders Coalition for Innovation who wrote to the FCC on this issue a couple of weeks ago. But you don't have enough spectrum to sell us, and you aren't going to allow us to do that for the same reason that you're not going to allow us to dig up the roads and streets of America to lay 15 sets of cables to everybody's homes, no matter what the consumer benefits might be. So the second solution that you can take is regulation, and that means some form of open access, and by open access, it essentially is what Mr. Pickering said. It is the opportunity to attach any device to the network. It's the opportunity to run any service on the network, provided, of course, that no harm is caused to the network and that it's for a lawful purpose. And that is the solution that I recommend. And the only other solution is competition, pure action of market forces. And I have to tell you, however, that despite the fact that, as the CTIA and the FCC keep telling us, wireless sector is the most competitive telecommunications sector in this country, and that is unquestionably true. Nevertheless, there are hundreds of interesting applications and services that are not getting in front of consumers because of the current structure of the market, and that's a problem that we can only address through regulation. And in my written testimony, I set out extensive examples of the services and applications that are not possible. They fall into four broad categories. First of all, there are applications and services that require the permission of all of the carriers in order for me to launch them. And I gave the example of, say, an X phone. Imagine a phone that worked across every network in the U.S., so that no matter where you were in the U.S., you could get coverage because the phone would automatically activate on whatever network offered the strongest signal. Now, it's actually technically easy to build such a phone, and Mr. Zipperstein just showed you one because Verizon's already selling it. But they've crippled that phone so that it won't work on any GSM networks in the United States. They sell it only to their customers who want to be able to use it in GSM networks abroad. And frankly, I don't blame him, because even if he tried to do that, he'd probably fall foul of antitrust provisions if he tried to negotiate relationships with all of the U.S. networks in order to sell such a device. But I could sell such a device, and any consumer in the country, and remember, 27% of consumers changed carriers solely in order to get better coverage. 27% of consumers would surely be interested in buying a device that worked across any network. And I could intermediate relationships with all of the networks in order to ensure that they had a single billing relationship. That's a straightforward thing to do. The second category, and remember, that's just one category of devices. The second category of applications and services are those that compete with the carrier's own initiatives. And there are hundreds of examples of those, but I'll give you a trivial one. Ringtones. Why are your kids' ringtones so expensive? It's not because there aren't people who don't want to sell them to you for less money. It's because the people who want to sell them to you for less money are not allowed to get onto the carrier's handsets because the carriers are supporting the price of those services. Here's the third example, legal risk. If I want to launch a service that has any legal risk associated with it whatsoever, it's highly unlikely to happen because the carriers have thrown out the baby with the common carrier bathwater by no longer being regulated under the terms of Title II, they no longer have any immunity for any of the services that they carry over their network, so they'll take a very conservative approach. I have plenty more to say, but I'm sure I'll have further opportunities to speak.
Thank you, Mr. Devitt, very much.